All right, think about this for a second. What happens when the very person people turn to for salvation becomes the source of their damnation? This is the story of the Vicarage Murders. And believe me, it's a case so twisted, you'll have a hard time believing it's real. I mean, look at that quote. That's not just hype. When this whole thing came to light back in the 80s in Sri Lanka, the press was just reeling. They were trying to find the right word, and the one they landed on was diabolical. And for good reason. The details that came out were so shocking, they basically set a new standard for evil, making this one of the most infamous crimes in the country's history. And here's where your head really starts to spin. At the absolute center of this story is this just chilling contradiction. The killer, an Anglican priest, a guy who was a trusted exorcist, someone people believed could literally cast out demons. And the victims, his own wife and his lover's husband. I mean, the level of betrayal here is just, it's almost impossible to wrap your mind around. Okay, so you have to be asking, how could a man of the cloth commit such a heinous act and, almost get away with it? Well, to really get it, we have to look at the powerful public image he so carefully built for himself. So let's ask, who was Father Mathew Peiris? So this guy wasn't just some priest. No, he was a massive spiritual figure in his community, the vicar of a major church in Colombo, a well-known exorcist. He had this incredible amount of power and influence. And get this, he even claimed to have the stigmata, the actual wounds of Christ. So people didn't just respect him, they revered him. They placed their total unwavering faith right in his hands. And just when you think this story can't possibly get any darker, it does. Because his method of murder, well, it wasn't just brutal, it was cold. It was scientifically calculated, insidious, and at the time, it was the world's first murder of its kind. The murder weapon here wasn't a gun, it wasn't a knife. It was a simple, common anti-diabetic drug called Glibenclamide. Now, for someone who doesn't have diabetes, this stuff is basically a potent poison. And the truly terrifying part, its effects perfectly mimic a natural medical emergency, which makes it an almost undetectable murder weapon. So how exactly did it work? It's just horrifying. He would give them the drug, right? And it would cause their blood sugar to just completely crash, plummeting to almost zero. This sends them into a coma and causes horrible, irreversible brain damage. And once they're in that state, helpless, weakened, their bodies can't fight off infections. Both of them eventually died from pneumonia. It was just a slow, agonizing, and perfectly calculated way to kill someone. And this is how deep his deception went. As this trusted vicar, right, he had unlimited access to his victims while they were in the hospital. So while everyone, we're talking nurses, family, thought he was right there at their bedside praying for them, he was actually pouring the poison right into their feeding tubes, methodically making sure they would never, ever recover. A crime this elaborate, this personal, it always comes down to one big question. Why? What was the motive? Well, the answer, as it so often is, was a classic one, a forbidden love. I mean, that's really the question at the heart of all this, isn't it? Here's a man who took a sacred vow, to uphold the commandments. Thou shalt not kill being a pretty big one, and he just shatters it. What on earth could possibly drive him to commit the ultimate sin? The answer, at least according to the prosecution, was simple.
and as old as time itself. They had a fancy term for it, an amatory nexus. Basically, a forbidden love affair.
So yeah, his affair was with a woman named Dalrene Ingram, who just so happened to be the wife of his male victim. The prosecution's case was pretty straightforward. The two of them came up with a brutal plan to just eliminate their spouses so they could be together. And while Peiris was convicted, Dalrene's conviction was actually overturned on appeal. The court basically said that while the affair was real, there wasn't enough proof she was in on the murder plot.
So, what happened to this killer priest? You think that's the end of the story, right? Nope. The legal drama that came after his conviction is, in its own way, almost as shocking as the crime itself.
Okay, check out this timeline. It's a real roller coaster. So, February 84, he's found guilty of a double murder and sentenced to death. Makes sense. Then, about a year later, that sentence is changed to life in prison. Okay, he tries to appeal, but the Supreme Court says no, the conviction stands. But then, and this is the part that is just wild, in November 1997, after only 15 years, he's released, freed for good conduct. And here it is, the final, absolutely chilling twist in this whole story. As soon as he's released, what does Father Peiris do? He puts his holy robes right back on and announces he's going to resume his work as an exorcist. It just leaves you with this deeply unsettling question, right? Can 15 years of good conduct really wash away a crime this diabolical? And maybe the bigger question is, can an evil like that ever truly be forgiven?